Welcome to the Enchanted Earth Podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own. Welcome. Today we have with us Bonnie Casamassima, and let me tell you a little bit about Bonnie. She's a researcher, educator, and highly sensitive, intuitive empath. She's the founder of Intuitive by Nature, an organization dedicated to nurturing people's joy-driven lives through fostering their intuitive connection. She's former professor holding her MFA from Savannah College of Art and Design, focusing on environmental psychology and biophilic design, and a BS in interior design from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. And she lives currently in Knoxville with her partner and his two incredible kids. She enjoys traveling, pottery, dancing to live music while wearing costumes, and a good belly laugh. You are just too funny, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. It was really important to put the human of me in it. So I really appreciate that feedback. It's wonderful to hear.
Well, I think I am going to take a fresh look at my bio, and I bet you a lot of people here watching and listening to us will do the same. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I just want to say our connection over these past few years has just been always joyful. You always come with such great enthusiasm and such positive outlook on life. I just so appreciate you and so many other women that I'm connecting with through my book and through the podcast that are just so heart-centered and enthusiastic and joyful for this very big transformation we're all going through.
Yes, absolutely. It's incredible. I love the community and the collaboration and the mutual celebration of each other. It's such a shift from while I loved all the people that I worked with in the past, I feel like it's just amplified in that celebration. So it's really exciting to see everybody step into their alignment in this time of transition that I'm excited to see. I feel like we're just scratching the surface, and I'm so excited to see what's yet to come.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So right. I mean, when we step back 10 years, 20 years from now, we will see the arc and the role that we all played. So yeah, I'm just so excited for that. So, kind of in that vein, like me, you've been on kind of a detour, shall I say, in your career. Me from a marketing to kind of feng shui and nature connection. But for you, I think is a bit bolder, going from kind of the research and the psychology background to intuition. Can you just share a little bit about that journey and the process that you went through?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And what I'll say is that it's really, had you asked me a few years ago, a decade ago, if this is where I'd be right now, I don't know what I would have said. But what I will say is each day really trusting those nudges of stepping more and more in alignment of what's wanting to show up and move through me in this lifetime. It's really phenomenal. But I kind of at a high level was and still am analytical. I still love a good spreadsheet. I love a good, absolutely. Give me those pivot tables, and was working, 60, 70 plus hours a week as a professor who has a deep passion for research and teaching a lot of research classes. That's still in me, right? But really over the past few years and that kind of pivot, if you will, or maybe realignment, it's been so much around really looking at what are all the layers that is me as Bonnie Casamassima, and how am I doing that in a way that supports. So to give some specifics, gosh, it's probably about a decade ago now, I started meditating for stress reduction. A good friend recommended it to me, and at the time, I remember telling her, I was like, meditation, I don't have time to meditate. Which is exactly the time when I needed to meditate, right? And all I could do was a short guided meditation on YouTube. And something about it felt so right, deep in my body, deep in my bones. My mind had 900 thoughts in those 2 minutes, but something about it felt so right. So I kept showing up to that practice. I've always been really sensitive to people's emotions, incredibly empathic, which was really helpful for me in the classroom, right? I could tune in to the needs of the students. But long story short, one day as I built up my meditation practice, I realized now what happened is I was calming my nervous system enough to allow really clear visuals to come through. Really clear visuals started coming through in my mind's eye during meditation. So another way, my clairvoyancy opened up in a really strong way. And Maureen, it scared the crap out of me at first with it. But again, when I dropped out of my analytical mind and tuned into my body felt really calm and really peaceful. And I felt this wash of pure love is the best I can describe it pour over me. And that led me on a multi-year journey of trying to understand what this was for me. And as you know, the student is ready, the mentor appears, so they say. Along the journey, I was at this pivot point of, am I a researcher and someone who's working as a professor? Or am I highly sensitive, intuitive? And, you know, it's why not both or why not all of it? So I combined that into leading a research project where I was honored to interview 50 highly intuitive people from around the world on their journey connecting. The findings from that were really transformational for me and my own experience, and such a deep honor to hold that space. I think there's no going back after that experience. So that's a little bit about the journey here and what drove that realignment, or maybe even deepening into what was always there. I just needed to uncover some of the stuff that I was putting on top of that.
I've got two questions now, if I can
Yeah.
remember them. Well, first is just a comment, I guess. It is just so lovely that you were able to find a way to kind of bring all of you into this new work that you're doing. I mean, it's just part of what you're doing now and part of what you will eventually do. Who knows what amazing things are to come. I just love that because coming from my background in marketing, I was not a creative. I was the database analyst. I would crunch numbers and do spreadsheets, and oh my gosh, Excel is like, so I can definitely resonate with that. So I just love that. And the other more of a question or comment is I'm kind of surprised to hear that you didn't, I guess and this probably came out in your research. My belief is that people who have this very strong intuitive flow felt it as a child. I mean, you felt empathic as a child, but you didn't, I guess, recognize that you weren't getting images or messages in a conventional way, I guess.
Yeah, and for me, maybe I repressed it, that's always a possibility. But for me personally, I always remember feeling information. Like I could walk into a room after there was an argument and people weren't there. Maybe the argument happened 15 minutes before. I didn't know that the argument had happened, but I would physically feel it was almost as if I was kind of like walking through more like a dense fog walking in the room. So that feeling was always there, but as far as receiving visuals, I don't remember that. But what I will say is I feel deeply, especially after the conversations in the research and conversations with people just informally and anecdotally, that we all have a deep connection with this inner guidance, with our intuition, with our inner knowing. Maybe it comes as gut feelings, maybe it comes as goosebumps, maybe it comes as just like, I can't explain why, I just know I need to move to this place, right? But I feel very strongly that we all are deeply connected. It is our, we can think about it as our sixth sense. But for me, I didn't remember it from childhood.
Well, I just find that very hopeful for many of us, myself included. I really didn't feel psychic at all. In fact, somebody said when I was about 40 that I was psychic. It was a psychic that I went to, the very first one, and she went, "You're psychic." And I'm like,
Yep.
so I find that very hopeful for many people
Absolutely.
that we all have it. I agree. And sometimes it takes situations, I guess, that will suddenly start opening that up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm curious to hear what were some of the things that helped you to deepen into your intuitive connection.
Sure. I think it is all about stillness, taking that time without distractions. I have found that just kind of going deep into this like third space, which is this dimension that's outside of our waking reality, not quite dream world, but just kind of allowing messages to come in, and also writing, kind of like automatic writing, has been really opening to me.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. What's really inspiring about that is that stillness. Like it's already often in the noise of the day to day. We can kind of shut it out. And because the quiet whispers of our intuition can be a little bit quieter than the noise of our day to day. With what we're seeing in the research too, just to kind of close everything together with it and sharing your experience, we're seeing that when we're able to get our body in a place in that stillness, when we're able to down regulate our nervous system, so maybe like the walk in nature and having these profound experiences, when we're really able to get our body kind of calm and still. And it doesn't mean that we have to be physically still, but our mental chatter to be still. What we're seeing is the more that we can get our brains out of those beta brain waves that we're in the day to day, the go, 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 we're able to connect more deeply with our intuition. So, what I love about that is, and especially hearing our shared belief in that we all have this connection, is that there's a framework, there's a roadmap, so to speak, that allows us to connect more deeply with ourselves. And I think nature is such a powerful catalyst for that. So thank you for pausing for a minute and sharing your experience. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. It is just, I'm sure that the listeners will really appreciate hearing more about your research. So at the end, we'll share more information about what you do and where they can go.
It all comes back to our connection with nature, right? So a profound experience, one of many that I've had in nature, is it was along my journey. I was going in a year-long training that I was honored to be part of. It's called Moonrise. And we were learning really sacred traditions around connecting with nature, connecting with our interconnectivity of all that is. And there was an activity where there was really beautiful drumming happening in the background. So, getting our bodies down, our nervous systems down regulated. What I now realize is my brain waves kind of shifting out of those beta brain waves into more of this kind of mind, body, or mind and heart resonance state. And we were instructed to go out in this area in nature and just move toward anything that we felt called or connected to. And maybe it was grass, maybe it was a branch, maybe it was a bush, maybe it was a tree. So I went out in this area in nature with my heart open and my mind trying to be open. And I felt really deeply connected to this tree. And Maureen, it was so fascinating. It was all about this magnet. It's like this magnet in my heart pulled me to this tree. I felt my body just get very, very calm. And I just followed whatever felt right in that moment. And I was called to come and sit down in front of the tree. Like in my heart, I felt called to sit in front of the tree. And I took a few deep breaths in and closed my eyes. And I felt this like, quite literally like physical connection with the tree. I was maybe about 3 or 4 feet away from the tree. And I noticed, the sounds of everything around me just kind of quieted down. The drumming was still there, but it was as if I was in this kind of like sound bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then in my mind, and I asked, well, is it okay that I connect with you? And instantly, instantly, there were, I heard like audible sounds, and it was a very like joy-filled, very rapidly talking voice that I heard. And again, in my body, I felt incredibly calm. And the connection with the tree was sharing itself with me. And it was profound. It was talking about how it felt really grateful that I wanted to connect with it because it was a smaller tree on the property and it felt like it didn't quite get as much attention as some of the grander trees on the property. And the best way I could describe it, it was almost as if it was like the speed of like someone who is maybe high school age talking very, very excitedly about a connection. And I knew it wasn't my own inner dialogue or my own inner voice because my inner voice sounds very, very different than that. And so it shared with me, like, I really love how it shared a few examples about, like, I really love watching the owner of this property's daughter and her three friends play. This is what it looked like. This is when I had most joy watching them and being in their energy. And in this moment, it was almost as if I was in this dream-like state, but I was very aware of, I was still in this on this land, on this property. And again, I felt my heart, it was as if my heart filled my whole body and my heart was open. And and then, we were kind of coming to a close with the activity, with the project. And I thanked the tree for its connection. And I asked if it was okay if I shared our conversation with the steward of the property. And they said absolutely. So then, kind of peacefully kind of closed our conversation and went back into the group activity a very different person than I did before that experience. It was so profound. I shared the information that the tree shared with me in that experience and with the steward of the land, and they confirmed everything that came through was what had happened the weekend before. And of course, I have no idea like who's in this backyard and who the friends look like or anything like that. But that was a really deeply sacred experience. And I'm so happy well, it took a minute to integrate for sure, especially being very analytical and type A. I'm so grateful for that experience because I think at the time I was so disconnected from myself and my intuition that I really needed these profound experiences that were undeniable for me to continue trusting myself and shifting out of that self-doubt of, is this connection real? Am I making this up? It is really profound. I'm deeply grateful for it. And I have continued to connect with trees pretty much every day.
When we are in those periods where we're, doubting ourselves, it is so important to have those kind of milestone experiences that wake us up.
Yeah.
Say, this is real.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do. You need to tap into this third space or other realm. You need to tap into the communications consciousness around you. I love that you were in this kind of long-term workshop experience because you had support so that it wasn't just an experience that you're like, what was that real? And you were able to go back to people that were supportive and embracing that experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that support and that community support was really essential for me for that integration and the embodiment of that trust with it. I'm deeply grateful. Yeah. Yeah. Nature is so profound. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that instant connection that we feel within ourselves, I'll speak my experience and, hundreds of others, but it's so profound. I feel it's such a sacred collaborator with us on this journey of life. And I know it's my responsibility to really honor it as the sacred, wise support that it is. I'm hopefully getting better about it and getting better than I was maybe years ago, but it's incredible. It's hard to put into words sometimes, that deep connection that's felt with that.
Yeah, and it's kind of remembering the indigenous ways. It's how indigenous people lived, was in this open connection with nature, spirit, nature beings, or other than human energies around them to not only survive but thrive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can I ask for you, what has that connection been like, that kind of, that deepening of your connection? I know it's so much of your work. It's really profound.
One experience that was probably back around 8 years ago, I think. I was in the Adirondack Mountains. I was taking a little walk with my husband, and I approached a pine tree. And I do that kind of connection where, yeah, I kind of approach the tree, ask permission, and then I just kind of put it the palms of my hands, hovered a few inches from the bark, and just to feel the energy. And I usually get some tingling sensation or some connection, but not anything as far as what you are sharing. But this one time, and I was also hosting a workshop with the tree whisperer, this gentleman in New Jersey, Dr. Jim Conroy, and his partner, Basha Alexander, do a lot of tree healing. And so I was preparing to do that, and I was looking forward to that and learning from them. I was in this space only a few minutes, and suddenly I got this powerful, all I can say is the smack in the head right here. So powerful, I fell back. I didn't fall down, but I fell back. And my husband saw me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And so I got hit. It was this sensation of being hit, and it was right here in my third eye, and it was the image of an eye. Boom. It was
Yes.
like, wake up. And yeah, that has to be the most crazy experience that I had, that thankfully my husband was there to witness. No, I'm not crazy. I didn't just imagine that I fell backwards and had this experience. So yeah, that was pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
And then and it was one of those experiences, like you said, that it was so intense, you can't make that. Like, it wasn't made up because it was so intense. But then also getting downloads from trees as I started writing my book and I was asking for guidance. I didn't hear a voice, but I got words in my head. And then I knew it was the tree, and I knew it was the tree speaking for all of nature. And I knew that the tree wanted me to put this in my book. What is your message? And then I started walking away going, okay, because I don't get that all the time. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And as I started walking away, it was like whoosh, whoosh, just download of information about our connection to this wonderful earth and how the earth really wants us. It needs us in a way that it doesn't need us to survive. It needs us to fulfill its fullest creative expression. And it was just beautiful. That's another thing, is that our experiences and our communication, or, dialogue with nature, is all different.
Yes.
You just have to be observant. How am I getting messages? And it could be just the wildlife moving around or the whistle of the wind. That could be the communication. For all of us, it's different and it changes, I think, from experience to
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. And what an opportunity to really tune into what that is for each person, individual, for those that are listening along to really honor that. I've had so many people say, I can't explain why. When I even look at an image of nature, I just feel so much calmer. So let's do more of that, right? I can't explain why, but when I'm just in nature, I just feel so much more connected with myself, and my body feel lighter, or they're getting incredible downloads. Like, what profound experience, Maureen. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, this has been really wonderful. And I do want to ask you um, first, before we get into how they can connect with you and your work, are there any other closing thoughts you have about profound connection to nature?
Oh, that we are nature. We are deeply part of nature, interwoven. And I was talking with a good friend yesterday about how in February we kind of feel the where I am, it starts like we start to really feel spring, kind of the beginning of March, middle of March. And around February, our bodies are just so tired. And then it's like, it's just gonna last forever. And then around the middle of March, we were like, oh, no, it's just my body was in winter. My body just needed to rest, like the cycles of nature inform us so beautifully with it. So I think for me, in the connection with our intuition, which really is this deep interconnectivity that we have and that deep wisdom that we can work powerfully with nature as our sacred collaborator and be in joy and be in delight. And in doing that, really using that intention to send that love back to nature with it. I think the more that we give ourselves the space to connect with nature and to connect with these profound experiences, I'll speak from my own experience. Like, there's no going back to being numb to this connection. And the more that we are able to immerse ourselves in nature, be it climbing trees or just sitting on the ground or kayaking, you name it, it's our responsibility to really make sure that we're honoring that connection and using it as a collaborator. So give it gifts, saying hello to the tree as you walk by, do it, connect with the flower if it brings you joy, share with it. It can be in your mind or out loud, but share that connection, because when we're feeling that, we're not the only ones feeling that. And I feel for me, the more that I give myself that space to honor that connection and go and say hi to all the plants in the yard on my morning walk and blow bubbles and joy in the fairy garden and dance with bells of celebration, right? And the more that I give myself space to do that in honor and celebration of nature, the more powerful that connection gets. I'm just so deeply grateful for it. So that, yeah, let's keep showing up and supporting nature. It's essential. I think it's essential. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. And approaching nature with sheer joy in our hearts and love. That's what we need to do. So get out there, everybody. I'm sure you are very curious to learn about Bonnie's research and the information that she's uncovered. Really amazing. You just launched a podcast recently.
It's Intuitive by Nature, the Intuitive by Nature podcast. And I want to give a huge shout out to Celeste Page Sample. She was powerful in helping with the research project, a lot with the data analysis and unpacking the findings. And she and I are the co-hosts on the podcast. So huge shout out to Celeste for that. But check out the Intuitive by Nature podcast. You can find that on intuitivebynature.com/podcast, and it talks about the research there as well.
Awesome. And yeah, you guys are wonderful together. I really enjoy listening to you. You're really just wonderful, warm individuals sharing with your hearts. So thank you.
Of course.
And so much gratitude for you coming on today live with me, Bonnie. And I look forward to our further discussions. There's so much that we can talk about, but we'll have to end here today. So thank you again. And thank all of you watching. Please share, subscribe, and please put comments below. We would love to hear any thoughts you have about this topic.
Thank you so much. And Maureen, thank you for the incredible work that you're doing to help our world be even more magical than it is. So thank you for all that you are and do. It's an honor being here with you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Comment below, share, and most of all, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll hear when we publish another inspiring episode. You can visit us at luminous-spaces.com for more information on our online courses, retreats, and offerings. Thank you and have a magical day.